Timing is an app that logs the apps you use, the websites you visit, and the files that you edit. It allows you to review the amount of time that you spend working on your Mac by various periods of time and by activity and by project. For example, if I want to review how I've spent my day today, I can configure this date range to focus directly on today. And then I can click on all activities, and this shows me per app all of the applications that I've used. I can also set this up to view my day per hour. So 9 o'clock until 1500 hours. These are the apps that I've used. And for each particular app, I can drill down and view the particular files that I've been working on in terms of what I've been logging anyway. This morning, I was working on an outline to this particular book. Notice that I have been looking at this in terms of projects. If I want to see the timeline here, I can click on this. The sidebar comes populated with a collection of projects that you can edit or that you can delete if you don't like, or you can at least study to get an idea of how things are set up. So I've double-clicked on Office here, for instance, and here's a collection of applications that will be monitored in this particular projects, and I have not here specified any particular paths. So as soon as I switch into Pages on the Mac, then there'll be content displayed here. Here, that is for Pages. Now with timing, you can actually set up projects that specify particular paths. So if we double click on this here, you'll see that I'm interested in any activity. So there's no any application that is. There's no filter here in which I am working in these subdirectories for this particular book that I'm writing. Now, if I want timing to include edits that I make in a different directory for this particular project, then I simply need to go to the Finder and drag and drop the folder that I'd like added to this project. And actually, what you do is you drag and drop them here, and they will appear in the paths in this project here. And again, what this means is that whenever I make an edit to the added directory, timing will include the time spent in this particular directory going forward. Now, looking at the list of paths here, it acts as a logical OR. Timing will compute the time you spent in any of these paths. So it's in this, or this, or this, and so on. Now let's look at projects in which I've configured application filters, essentially. So I defined a communications project here to allow me to see how much time I spend in these various communication apps, Skype, Address Book, FaceTime, iChat, which is actually mapped to messages and so forth. So this allows me to see that, well, today I have spent 38 minutes here, and I could look at that by application. Say, okay, most of the time has been actually spent in the Mail app. Now, as you would expect, projects are created by clicking on the plus button, giving the project a name, and double-clicking here and editing it. There's actually very little you can do here with respect to configuration, so it's actually quite simple that way. But one thing you can do is you can organize your projects to have sub-projects to make them easy to navigate and to make them meaningful. So what I've done here is I've created some projects that roughly reflect some of the categories of projects that we've talked about in this book. So we've got content creation versus information processing here. So I can tell how much time I've spent reading PDFs, for instance, or reading in general, or practicing, and so on and so forth. Timing doesn't have a separate class of objects for folders. So here I've created folders just virtually by creating projects that are empty, they're not configured. And then what you do is you drag and drop a project from one place to another, and that actually populates this folder here. So as you can see, I have created projects that are meaningful in terms of the categories that we've discussed previously in this book. Now, Timer has an interesting feature in its preferences, which you can set here, which is to have it remind you to review your activities on certain frequency. So here, for instance, every week I get a reminder to review my activities. In order for timing to give you information about the particular documents that you are editing, you will need to enable accessibility in the preferences. Now, timing is a very useful app, but it's not a Swiss Army knife, and it does have certain limitations. For instance, it has no way of knowing whether the PDF that you're reading, for instance, is part of one project or another. Typically, you'd put all of your PDF files in one folder hierarchy, and you're not going to be configuring PDF files into folders that represent projects typically. And if you spend time off your computer, say you're reading on your iPad, well, it doesn't know what you're doing, of course. So what you need to then do is augment timing with another app. So typically some manual tracking of time is actually required. And in one of our screencasts, we show you how to use my self-quantifier workbooks in Excel or other spreadsheets to keep track of your time on projects and activities.